Wake up. This is not a story about money. This is the story of a drug called power. A high so pure, so dangerous, that once it enters your veins, it becomes your oxygen, your heartbeat, your reason to open your eyes in the morning. It doesn't just visit your soul. It burns through it. It tears out the foundations of who you are, splinters the walls you've built to protect yourself, and leaves nothing but the echo of hunger. And that hunger, it laughs at reason. It doesn't care about sleep. It doesn't care about love. It doesn't care about morality, about right or wrong, about heaven or hell. It only cares about one thing, more. Power turns men into gods in their own minds. And gods? Gods turn into monsters in reality. He wasn't born into wealth. He wasn't handed a damn thing. There was no silver spoon waiting on the table. Only chipped mugs, cold kitchens, and mornings where the air hurt to breathe. There were no gentle life lessons. Only the hard ones. The kind taught by streets that didn't know your name, and wouldn't flinch if you disappeared tomorrow. He carved his empire with his own hands. Hands blistered from grinding when everyone else was sleeping. Hands scarred from fights that no one ever saw. Because some battles don't happen in rings or alleys. They happen in silence when no one is watching. Hands that clawed up walls everyone else called impossible to climb. Hands that bled not by mistake, but because bleeding was the price of getting closer to the top. Queens, New York. A place that spits you out if you come in soft. Where dreams are cheap but reality is expensive. Where the rent is never low. The nights are never quiet. And the only currency that really matters is will. Every corner had a man selling hope in a paper cup. Every kid learned quick. If you don't fight back, you're not just someone's competition. You're someone's lunch. The streets screamed in sirens, spoke in half a dozen languages, and whispered the same truth in every single one of them. Nobody is coming to save you. It was a breeding ground for ambition. But ambition without direction? That's a loaded gun pointed at your own head. And in the middle of it, there was a boy. A boy staring out through a cracked window at the Manhattan skyline. He didn't see buildings. He saw ladders. Each floor a rung. Each window a chance to break in. Each office a fortress to be conquered. He didn't dream of survival. Survival was for the ones who surrendered early. He dreamed of conquest. He wanted the kind of more that drowns out the voices in your head. The kind that makes your enemies say your name, with a taste of iron in their mouth. The kind that bends the air when you walk into a room. That makes silence itself take a step back. But on Wall Street you don't climb. You claw. You rip. You bite. You bleed for the right to even stand at the edge of the table. And when the game is rigged, when the rules are written by the men who already won, you don't play fair. You learn to cheat better than they do. You write your own rule book, and you write it in blood. He started at the bottom. Connector. Last on the floor. A suit so cheap it felt like the fabric was mocking him with every step he took. A name nobody remembered. A desk number nobody cared about. A dog chained to a phone. Dialing strangers until his voice was shredded. Until his gums ached from grinding his teeth in frustration. Every call a rejection. Every rejection a cut. And every cut fed the hunger. There was no respect. No promises. No map that showed a way out. But there was something they couldn't measure. Couldn't buy. Couldn't break. Hunger. And behind that hunger was darkness. Not the kind in movies. Not the kind people pretend to understand. The kind you earn by living in a place where losing means you don't eat. A darkness that made him immune to guilt. Immune to doubt. A darkness that could sharpen obsession until it could cut through steel. Obsession is the most dangerous weapon on earth. Mix it with desperation, and you don't get a man. You get a machine. A predator in a suit. A storm that doesn't pass. A fire that doesn't burn out. Stratton Oakmont. To the public, a company. On the inside, a kingdom without a king. A church where greed was the only god worth praying to, and every broker came to worship wearing $1,000 suits. They weren't employees. They were soldiers in a holy war for excess. They weren't selling stocks. They were selling permission. Permission to believe in a lie. If that lie promised you could escape the life you hated. The numbers were the drug. The chaos was the fix. The champagne was communion. The women were currency. Lines of white powder drawn like maps to nowhere. Pills that erased hours until there was no night and no morning. Only more. Nights that swallowed entire weeks. Nobody kept count. Every deal was a hunt. Every close was a kill. Every kill was celebrated like a holy victory. And in that chaos he didn't just survive. He ruled. He played the market like a symphony, the SEC like a puppet, and the media like his personal theater. He built a throne from lies, a crown from cocaine, and a castle from the bones of the desperate. Yachts that sliced the ocean in half, mansions that glowed like gold teeth in the hills, helicopters that circled above the skyline like vultures waiting for the next kill. From the outside it looked like the dream. From the inside, it was a nightmare with better lighting. Because when the music stops, when the last bottle is empty, and the last body leaves your bed, the silence comes. And in that silence, the demons don't knock. They sit beside you. They don't shout. They whisper. And those whispers cut deeper than any scream. They told him the truth he already knew. It would never be enough. The hunger would kill him. He traded his soul for paper and powder, and there is no buyback price for that. He had a wife, a queen in his castle, beautiful, deadly, a weapon in heels. But power doesn't care who it burns. Addiction doesn't care what it destroys. Took his health, then his marriage, then his peace, piece by piece, until all that was left was the chase. And the street kept calling, promising more, always more. More money, more women, more nights that bled into mornings without meaning. Until it broke. The FBI was watching. The walls that once kept people out now kept him in. Every call felt like a confession. Every knock was a death sentence. He ran. He lied. He bribed. But gravity doesn't care how high you've climbed. When you fall hard. The wolf was cornered. The crown was gone. The king was now just a man. And the man was broken. Jail. Not the movie kind. The real kind. Cold. Gray. Final. He lost the money. He lost the power. He lost the respect. And the friends who swore they'd take a bullet for him? Gone. But in the ashes he found something else. The story. The scars. The truth. And in telling it, he found a strange kind of redemption. Not for the applause. Not for the headlines. For the man in the mirror. Because you can trick the world. You can rob it blind. You can bend the rules until they snap. But you can't outrun consequence. This is Jordan Belfort. The man who turned addiction into empire. The wolf who learned to howl again. Not to hunt, but to warn. A warning carved in blood and gold. A message to anyone tempted to confuse greed with greatness, or power with purpose. Because when you sell your soul to the world, you find out the truth too late. The world always collects,